as far as we know. Josh should be here. Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 24th, 2019 Folsom Cordova Unified School District budget study session. We are expecting Mr. Clark and Mr. Hoover, but out of respect of your time, we will get the meeting started. I want to make reference to the fact that a broadcasting is being made at the direction of the board, and that broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. So with that, I will turn this over to Superintendent.
Okay, thank you, President Ranking. And there are seats up front, so for those of you standing in the back, please come on forward. No takers? Okay, yeah, come on up. All right, so we have a PowerPoint that we're going to be sharing, which is a recap of where we've been with our budget study sessions over the past year from planning for this school year 1920. So we want to spend a little time recapping where we've been in the past year, because we realize there are folks here that might not know what took place this last year. I also know that we've got members, employee members from FCEA, CSEA leadership, and we also have members of our Superintendent Communication Committee. So I realize some of you have probably seen some of this presentation and some have not. So we apologize if some of this is repetitive at the beginning, but I do want to thank everybody who's here today for your participation in being here, but also as we've come to you to seek your feedback as we've been talking about our budget and our budget visioning. So with that, we're going to jump in to our PowerPoint. And we'll go to the first slide there. All right, so our purpose today is to really dive deeper into some of the budget challenges we have going forward. We're required to do a multi-year budget, so it's a 3-year budget, and the county has given us some specific guidelines and directives to make sure that we can make our bottom line balance over the next 3 years. We'll be providing the board an update on the feedback we've collected from the different groups that we've been meeting with. And we'll review some of those impacts of ideas generated from our stakeholder groups. And our goal is to bring recommendations to the board by the November 21st board meeting. Last year, when we were engaging in our study sessions, and we held 4 of them last year, our board developed 4 guiding principles along with district staff as we were going forward, looking at last year coming into this year and going forward. And that was to reduce expenditures, minimize impact to students, minimize potential layoffs, and to review programs. So why the urgency now? Why is this so important that we're bringing this now and with a recommendation on November 21st? Well, we are required by the county to submit our first interim budget, which accounts for our current year and 3 years out. And we have to show that we can make our expenditures with the revenue, the ongoing revenue. And what the county sees in our budget and what they reported to us earlier this year is that we must submit a budget plan by the first interim reporting period in December that addresses a shortfall. And it's a significant shortfall that we're addressing. It's $5.4 million in our unrestricted reserve for 21-22. So they're looking for a plan that is going to account for ongoing reductions with ongoing revenue. In order for them to certify our budget, we have to show them the actions that we're going to take to be able to make that happen so we don't compromise our fiscal solvency. And if we don't do that, there will be ramifications to that. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Crawford to talk about the implications if we don't address our deficit.
So qualified certification means we can only meet 2 of the 3 years in terms of meeting our fiscal obligations. A negative certification means we can only meet 1 year or no years of all 3 years that are included in the multi-year projections. So some of those implications are listed up here. It does require some additional reporting on our part. It's an additional scrutiny by SCOE. If we go from qualified to a negative certification, that's when the state comes in. SCOE can assign a fiscal advisor. FCMET will come in. In addition, SCOE could possibly disapprove our budget. And then that would mean they would come in, they would look at all of our financial transactions, they'd look at our hiring processes, they would look at all things that we do financially. So we get this question a lot, why do we still have a budget deficit? So we are projecting about a 3.2% COLA for this next year. Unfortunately, our ongoing expenditures are more than that revenue, so we have a large structural deficit that's part of that plan that SCOE wants us to identify. So when you look at our ongoing contribution for STRS and PERS, our step and column increases, our annual increases for insurance, property and liability, our special ed contribution, our transportation contribution, all of those add up to probably 3 times more than that 3% revenue that we earn each year. In addition to that, because our budget is 85% salary and benefits, that leaves us very little room to cover those additional expenses. There are a couple of programs with especially with our preschool kiddos, our age 3 to 5 students. We are mandated to provide services for those students, but we do not get any state funding for those. This was our revised budget projections. This was our multi-year projection in August when we brought our revised budget back to the board. So the first year is 1920, that's our current year, and the next 2 years out that we're projecting. For 1920, we had shown a slight deficit. When we closed our books in September, we were able to identify more funds than we had anticipated, so we can cover that $117,000 shortfall. For 2021, our original plan for SCOE at June, when we did our adopted budget, we had identified some one-time sources to cover that $3.2 million. Most of those one-time sources were carryovers, delaying some Chromebook purchases, delaying some lab replacements, those kinds of things. So we showed SCOE that we could cover those. For 21-22, we could not identify a plan that didn't involve people to cover a $10 million shortfall. If you look at all 3 years combined, that's about $15 million short that we're looking at just for 3 years. When we look at the 4th year, which we'll be bringing to the board in June for next year's budget, that number doubles almost, and we'll show that in a little bit here. And also, these numbers do not include salary increases. We're at the 2nd year of our 2-year agreement with our bargaining units, so those numbers are not in here, and that's also what we want to keep as part of the discussion, is being able to offer a salary increase to all of our employees. So these are some thoughts and ideas from our budget study sessions that we held last year with the board. We held 4 of them. These were the thoughts that we accumulated at each of our table discussions. I think many of you were probably here and helped put some of those ideas together. As we've been meeting with different groups the last month and a half, we've been adding to this list, and then you'll see part of that when we talk about the feedback. This kind of is an illustration that shows the effect of the compounding. So you'll see the current year 1920, those are the reductions that we've already made. Going into 2021, we have that $3.5 million shortfall. We've only identified the 2nd years of our retirement incentive program. So we need reductions for next year and the next 2 years after that. So what this illustrates is if you make a reduction in 2021, it actually compounds into 21-22 and then compounds into 22-23. So you'll see, for instance, if we made $1 million cut in 2021, you'd get that 1 million plus another 1, and then you'd get 3 times that in 22-23. This is a graph of our staffing and our budget timelines that we have coming up. So we've been engaging with all of our stakeholder groups this month. We have our budget study session tonight. We have some continued meetings with our stakeholders. We will be bringing back on November 21st our recommendations for budget reductions. We have to certify our first interim budget for SCOE by December 13th. Our board meetings, I think, is on the 19th, but we actually have to submit our budget before that. And then in January, we start with our staffing projections. So Human Resources will be meeting with all of our sites and all of our principals and start working on staffing.
So as we met with the different groups, we met with FCEA, CSEA, leadership, and our student advisory board. And when we met with the groups, we talked about our guiding principles. And when we met with our student group, the question was framed a little bit differently. We asked our student leaders from middle schools, high schools, and our continuation high schools, what things are most important to you inside the classroom? What are those things that are most important to you outside of the classroom? And then what things seem to engage you more overall? So I won't read those to you, but I think it's very interesting to see what our students' voice is telling us. They love their technology and not so much the textbooks, and there's certain programs that they don't like as much, such as iReady, StudySync, and printed materials. Outside of the classroom, many things were engaging to them and important to them. So I think that's worth taking that all into account from the student's perspective. Again, we engaged in this collaborative process with each of our bargaining units and with our Folsom Cordova Leadership Association managers and supervisors and principals. The process that we went through with the groups, again, was to review the guiding principles. We asked our groups to think about impact to students, to staff and faculty, to families. And for most of the groups, we got through we met more than once. And if we met more than once with our groups, we then, after we generated lists of ideas that added on to some of the thoughts that came forward from the study sessions last year, we asked our groups to do some prioritization from 1 to 4. And we did that in groups as well, or as a whole group to submit to us as the district, to then look at trends and patterns. So the 1 to 4, 1, don't consider these as reductions. 2, not sure, we need more information. 3 or 4, we would consider these reductions, but 3, we need more time to study it. So some of the feedback that we've received, which we called broad support, and these were ideas that really came across from all the groups. And again, we compiled these as trends and patterns. So we'll just give you a minute to take a look at that list and see if you have any questions, board. Ms. Crawford, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about the retiree benefit fund, because that's one that's come up quite a bit, and we want to make sure our group understands what that all means.
Yes. So our retiree benefit fund, it's our Fund 71. So we've had multiple discussions about, we have created a formal trust now, an irrevocable trust, but we currently have about $14 million in that fund. There has been discussion about, one, using some of that reserve balance to purchase some one-time materials. One of the ideas that came up was to use some of those funds to purchase Chromebooks, because we've heard from all groups that Chromebooks were top priority for all groups. The other idea was to reduce the contribution that we are currently paying into the retiree benefit fund. We're currently transferring 1% in plus a pay-as-you-go amount. Mm-hmm. The thought was to lower that or make it 0 and only contribute the pay-as-you-go amount to the retiree benefit fund.
Any questions from the board on this slide? Mr. Reed.
How would you take money out of an irrevocable trust for Chromebooks?
The irrevocable trust, we have not transferred the funds into it yet. Those funds are actually held outside of our books. The amount in Fund 71, we have to decide as a board how much to transfer into that irrevocable trust. If we want to transfer all of it, if we want to transfer part of it, how much that is. The remainder can be used for some one-time expenditures.
Thank you.
Rhonda, quick question on the reducing the 1% contribution, you're going to reduce it or eliminate it, from what I understand. That's what you're saying?
That's an option.
That's one option. I mean, because if you're, how much more can you possibly reduce it? I mean, we're at 1% now. Are we talking about 0.5% or?
We could go to 0. We could go halfway in between. We could go half. We will continue the pay-as-you-go amount. We are committed to that.
Mm-hmm.
The amount over and above that, we could just delay that for a few years and just suspend it. We can evaluate it each year. It is in our budget guidelines, so the board actually approves that each year. But we have some different options that we can do with that.
Okay.
Can you remind me what that fund balance is again? 71?
About 14 million.
14 million. So we could, if the board decided we wanted to put 10 million in there, we have that latitude. And although the recommendation would be to use anything for one-time funds.
Yes.
But the 1%, if we eliminate that, would be an ongoing.
That would be ongoing.
And is the pay-as-you-go model a more common practice across the state?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Hoover?
It's very difficult to contribute the total amount of the actuarial liability.
And we have made some progress over the last couple of years by contributing that 1%.
Correct.
Yeah. Mr. Hoover?
It absolutely is a more common practice, but I guess my question is, what was the reasoning for doing the 1% contribution in the first place, just for the folks that weren't here then? Or I'm just curious what the budgetary reasoning was.
When we created Fund 71 back in 2007, the thought process back then was, at that point, it was supposed to be an irrevocable trust, but GASB rules have changed in the last 12, 13 years. The thought at that time was to work towards getting as close to the full amount of the liability as we could. So that was at that time, I think, $18 million. It's now about $23 million. So each year that has been board decision as part of our budget guidelines is to contribute a little bit extra, one, to get towards that actuarial liability, and to make sure we always had enough to cover our retirees, past and current and future retirees. So okay. As has happened over the last few years, we have actually accumulated more. So we're at about probably 65% funded.
Good job. And also, are you looking at contributions to be more concise to our specific employees than than the information we were given when we went toward and authorized the 1%?
Correct. Yeah, the actuary, when they actually do their report, they have to look at it they have standards and processes that they have to follow as actuaries. What we're trying to do is come back to a realistic number of, based on our actual employees when they retire, how many years that really is. We estimate at a full 10 years. Most retirees are not benefiting from 10 years of retirement benefits. So we're trying to really fine tune how much is that annual pay-as-you-go amount.
Yeah.
So, just a quick follow-up on that question. So given obviously actuarial projections, given rising healthcare costs, rising lifespan, for example, things like that. I mean, obviously we have the benefit of the tenure, but what will be the long-term impact on our budget if we made this decision to reduce that 1% to 0? I mean, are we just trading, a deficit, now for a deficit later? I mean, what is the long-term impact going to be?
It would just be reducing that reserve balance that we currently have. We would basically be living off of that reserve. As we progress through the next 5-10 years, we would have to continue to evaluate it. As every year, we have an average number of retirees. But last year, for instance, because we had the incentive, we had quite a few retirees that was way above the average. So if we do that again, that average again will be higher. So we're always going to be watching those trends.
And the way that when we transfer this money to, we will be earning additional returns on it that we aren't seeing right now.
Correct.
Mr. Short?
I think the question goes kind of along with the actuaries. Of course, their retirement CalPERS is going up so many %. So that's just a projection. That's all included too, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
We have the benefit because we have caps,
Yeah.
so that does lessen
Mr. Reed?
the impact.
Not all retirees take advantage of this benefit, though, correct?
That's correct. We have some retirees that continue with the waived medical that they have had for their employment. We have some that switch out of waived medical and then take benefits when they retire. So we have different scenarios that they take.
And the fund is designed to cover them through age 65,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
Mr. Hoover?
Sorry, one more clarifying question. The pay-as-you-go amount moving forward will come out of the fund or out of our general budget?
The pay-as-you-go would come out of the general fund. That
The
would be a
pay-as-you-go would-
contribution to the irrevocable trust.
Okay. So the pay-as-you-go amount, is it growing every year in terms of what percentage of the general fund it's taking? Like so for example, can we expect that pay-as-you-go amount to rise, over the next few years per year?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on what we're seeing right now.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay, as you move through this, do you want to try to get a consensus from the board on actions like this recommendation, or do we want to work all the way through this and
I think
return?
we'd like to work all the
Okay.
way through because there are,
Okay.
there's other slides and information to share. So we wanted to start with the one where we saw the most, most commonalities between the groups that we met with. So we're starting here. Moving to the next slide. These are the ones that commonly had no support. Avoid reductions in these areas, in the areas of custodial services, department chairs, intervention teachers, and these would be the intervention teachers in our Rancho Cordova sites or Title I sites or SIG-funded schools, which we have 2 of, the parent coordinator positions, the Cordova High Partnership Academy matching funds, and then some of our software for Apex, Edgenuity, and Illuminate. So those were common things not to reduce, but were brought up. So we wanted to share that into the spectrum as well.
When you talk about the intervention teachers, the Title I sites, the SIG grant is eventually going away, correct?
It is. 1 more year.
1 more year, but the funding for those is not an impact on the general fund, correct? Those are coming out of either Title I monies or grants. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. The ones that are paid for from the SIG grant, once that grant expires, they would then become a general fund expense.
So it sounds like we would have to at least look at those positions. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on this slide from the board?
Okay. The next 2 slides we're calling mixed support. There were some groups that thought that these were doable potentially for next year. And then we have another slide that says mixed support for the following year. So there wasn't complete agreement in themes and trends, but we wanted to bring these up. And again, with the dollars, potentially that could be attached to these common themes. So I'll let you take a look at that for a moment and see if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board on any of these items?
Yeah, right off the top with the closure of Folsom Lake High School and the credit recovery, how would that look? Would that be more of an independent study at a comprehensive high school site, or?
I'm going to ask Ms. Alleman to address that question.
We've met with the principals about offering credit recovery in specific subject areas. So there is some discussion there. We have had conversations around the principal's table with the principal of Folsom Lake High School being there too, to take a look at what kind of students, what are the students' needs at Folsom Lake High School at this point in time. So she would be pivotal in assisting us with what that credit recovery might look like to meet the needs of those students.
Okay.
In reducing the site department carryovers, we have been protected of the Intel dollars, and that does not include Intel.
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Go ahead, Mr. Reed.
On the closure of the Folsom Lake High School, I assume there's also some potential benefit, additional benefit on the sale of the property, correct?
The sale of the property cannot be used for general fund expenditures. It can only be used for capital outlay.
Correct. Yeah.
So it could only be used for purchasing other property, our modernization projects, construction projects, those kinds of things.
So the money can be used for modernization of
Yes.
existing facilities.
Correct.
What? Go ahead, Mr. Short.
I just had a couple questions on summer school. I know in the past that was one on the list. That 437, is that across the district or for the secondary? That include Cordova and Vista or the Folsom area?
It's inclusive of all
Everybody,
high
yeah.
school,
So we
summer
just-
school, but we are still required to offer an extended year to our special ed students, so that would
So
continue.
that excludes that.
Yes.
And then the transportation staggering start times. I know
Yes.
was the AB, not the AB, but the early start thing that the governor just signed. How does that all fit in the next couple of years? I think that might be part of the equation.
Right. So
There's
we've just started having conversations with our director of transportation of what the staggered start times for middle school and high school could mean to our transportation schedule. And it's still, very early on. When the governor signed this bill, it's to be implemented in July 2022. And the requirement is that high schools wouldn't start any earlier than 8:30 and middle schools wouldn't start any earlier than 8 a.m. So right now we have separate routes and separate drivers for our middle schools and high schools and in elementary too. So we've started looking at if we have this staggered start time between middle school and high school and elementary too, is it possible maybe to, instead of having multiple buses driven by multiple drivers, accommodate those routes? If there's enough time in between, we might be able to use the same bus to do both ways and get students to and from at different grade level spans, which it doesn't reduce on our drivers. It actually expands their time, but it could reduce on our equipment and our buses and the need to purchase new buses sooner. So there's an impact there. However, there's a lot of other things that we haven't even had a chance to talk about when it comes to how that later start time impacts the end of the day. And the fact that the whole state has to adhere to this come 2022 will mean that, CIF and sports at the high school level will have to adjust accordingly too. So there are a lot of unknowns, and we're just starting to study this right now.
That's going to impact us some way or another. Yeah.
Mr. Sorry.
The $500,000 for lead teachers, is that eliminating the lead teachers?
Right now, go ahead, Ms. Crawford. On
That's
that.
eliminating 5. We currently have 7.
So eliminate 5 of the 7. And before we had the lead teachers out of the classroom and based in this building, my understanding, I could be wrong, is we did have lead teachers, but they were in the classroom. They just had additional responsibilities, correct?
That's correct.
So would that be what you would be anticipating, or are you putting all the work burden on 2 lead teachers?
I'm going to ask Mrs. Alleman to address that.
The lead teachers, and again, we're in preliminary discussion about 2 lead teachers. So, for example, this year we're taking a look at adopting the new science curriculum. It would be very difficult for us, in my opinion, to adopt our new science curriculum and to implement it without having someone kind of steering that ship. So this year, the lead teacher we would look to maybe keep would be the science lead teacher as far as that goes. So in years past, when I first took on this particular position, the lead teachers were not full-time. They had staggered, they staggered full-time depending on the adoption cycle. So there would probably be a revisit of something like that.
Okay, thank you.
And that was my question too, lead teachers. I'd like to explore that more and see what it would look like if we cut back on those. The project Lead the Way, replacement consumables licensing, I thought we had some buy-in on that the sites could take that on themselves, so that would be okay. And then Mr. Short, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Short?
Just a quick question. I noticed the accumulation of prep periods for Mills Mitchell and stipends for that's about 800 or some thousand. Wouldn't that be a negotiated thing that we'd have to table, and that would take us X amount of time to even put that in place after we negotiate contracts?
Yes.
Right now we have contract language for how the secondary schools are staffed. So we would have to have something that was a negotiated schedule.
The site technology coordinator stipends, what can you explain that one a little bit more? It's 112,000. Give me an example of the site technology coordinator stipends. Is it somebody later after hours or coming in doing computers like right now?
Have Mr. Wilson address that, please.
Yes. So each of our sites have a site tech coach assigned to the sites, and usually it's a teacher taking on extra responsibilities throughout their day. They have monthly meetings here with our technology department and are responsible for taking inventory, doing some troubleshooting, and generally keeping track of things that are happening tech-wise on the campus and trainings as well. Thank you. So each one of our sites have a site tech coordinator identified.
Okay, thank you.
The summer school for secondary, are we at a point where we could possibly start doing that this summer? Do we have enough other resources for credit recovery for these students, or is this?
Solomon.
It would be a struggle for us to put that in place, but it could be done.
And the standardized kindergarten schedules for AM, PM, did we address that one? How would that be a savings, and what would it look like?
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, absolutely. So right now we have 3 different schedules happening in kindergarten. We have all day, we have slip, and we have AM, PMs. The AM, PM would share a classroom. It would be 2 teachers in the same classroom, each with their respective classes of 24, one in the AM, one in the PM. The savings on that come in through prep time. That by way of a prep teacher, itinerant prep teacher coming in, the teachers could actually prep each other in that model, and it would reduce the amount of prep time needed for a preparation teacher to go in there.
Is that a practice we have done in the past, or does this have to be negotiated too? Okay.
It would have to be negotiated, yes.
Ooh, lots of negotiation, Mr. Ogden. Okay. Any other questions about this slide? Okay.
The next slide is, again, a list of mixed support, meaning some of the groups said that this could be doable 2 years out, and others, not so much so. So we call it mixed support. But the common themes we saw was elementary prep reduction, the IB coordinators operating expenses, prep periods at the Cordova High Vista, and print shop. So if you have any questions, we can entertain those.
Any questions on this slide from the board? Mr.
I guess same question on prep periods, but same thing.
Yes.
They would need to be negotiated.
Yes.
And when you say prep periods at Vista, are you it would maintain the same schedule and have a benefit, or is that a whole schedule discussion?
The reason we're calling it prep periods is in secondary in our district, different schools have different amount of prep periods based on the schedule. So when we staff each school, there's a base staffing, which is 1 prep period. And so if you have, like Vista has a block where it's more prep periods, or if you have 2 prep periods, which we have at some schools, it takes more staffing to staff those schools. So that's where you see the difference in cost.
But how would you change prep at Vista? Go to.
Well, we'd have to talk about. That's why that one's a 21-22.
Oh, okay. Okay, you've got plenty of other things to negotiate before that. Okay. Any other questions on this, Mr. Reed?
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the $494,000 for the print shop. we've gone significantly to digital over the last several years. I'm surprised we can generate 494,000 in less publications. Is that correct?
It's amazing the amount of paper that is still printed.
So the proposal would be to just drive more digital.
Yes, and that has been part of the discussion, especially with the students. As we're moving more towards an online presence, the expectation would be that the amount of paper printed would start to lessen.
How would that impact the classroom?
A lot.
It would have varying effects. Some teachers rely on printed material more than others. Some are comfortable in the digital world, and then it would also have an impact on site printing. So right now, whatever can go to print shop with the time constraints goes to print shop. What we would see, my guess, is an uptick in the amount of printing done at the school sites on the machines there.
It's interesting, and just coincidentally, Ms. Reichen and I were at a school site this morning, and the principal was talking about Chromebook burnout, that we are overemphasizing our electronics with our students. And it seems interesting that we would cut print when we're hearing that perhaps we are overdoing the electronics. Just an observation.
The IB coordinators and operating licensing, how would this impact IB? I mean, IB has been drawing students to Cordova High, so if we look at anything, how would this impact the program if we did something like that?
And I'm going to ask Ms. Alleman to give more of the background on that, please.
There is a requirement for the licensing fee to host the IB program. We do support the coordinators who do just that in coordinating the program, the MYP program, and the flow from Mitchell to Cordova. We've seen great growth in Mitchell and Cordova in and with the program. So yes, it would impact that program greatly.
And I think, at least in my opinion, it's been a success, and I think the city leadership also agrees with that. So that would be taking, in my opinion, a huge step backwards. But
and I think there is a presentation coming up at Rancho Cordova City Council 2x2 meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So just to understand real quick, the operating license covers both Cordova and Mitchell?
Correct.
Okay.
And maybe that is something the city, there's also a grant or something, but to seeing something like that, I see the program jeopardized. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, so okay, thank you.
Feedback and further recommendations. This would kind of follow what our multi-year would look like. So we start plugging in those reductions, and we start to see that compounding effect. So you'll see across the top the amount that we would need to reduce each year. So you'll see the 3.5 for next year, and then it goes to 9, and then it goes to 19, and then it continues to get worse until we start addressing those reductions. So once we have some recommendations in place, then we can start plugging them in, and we can start to see what the effect of those are. And then again, we have the cost of 1% for our salaries. So for each group listed here, that would be a 1% increase. So a multiple percent increase, you multiply those numbers by that same amount.
So we received other feedback from the different groups, and we wanted to just, again, put them in a list of other ideas to explore. Some of these do not have dollars attached yet, but some are good ideas worth exploring. We just couldn't do it in a turnaround time of 1 month. But these are ideas, again, that have come up from the different groups.
One thing that wasn't on the list that we've added over the last few years, and I know we are, embracing the whole child, and the MFTs. Was there any discussion about those?
Actually, that didn't come up in any of the groups. Although from the students, one of the things that they appreciated outside of the classroom was the mental health and wellness support and their counselors. They did call that out. They didn't call it out by position, but they made reference to that.
Go ahead. So that's the end of the presentation?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Any questions on that slide?
No. Oh, Mr. Short.
We did furloughs before, and not very popular, but I guess there would be a dollar amount to that, but then that lowers our service levels. So why are they talking about exploring it? We've done it before. So
We've done it before.
yeah,
The thought was just thrown out there again, just to consider.
okay.
So we put it on the list.
Don't we need latitude to do that? Don't we? Because we were able to do it before because the state said we could reduce by 3 days.
Yes, we only have 1 day that we have available to us at this point.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
1 day.
Day.
1 day.
1 day.
Mr. Reed.
Yeah, just a general observation on this slide. I personally would like to see us focus on items that are the furthest away from the classroom and the students as possible, and then work inward.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? No? Go ahead.
In the past, we talked about zero-based budgeting model. Could you explain that again a little bit for everybody to understand zero-based modeling, because it is a little different than what we're talking about right now?
It's a little different. It takes a little bit more thought, more work to it. But what it does is each year you start from scratch. So each year you put together what your goals are, what your priorities are, what you're going to do to serve students, what your metric is going to be, and you do that each year. You don't. What we do now is it's just based on what we've done before, or it's based on the same formula. So what it does is it causes you to take a step back and you really look at what you need, and makes it's more of a process of justifying that need, and tying it, like we do with LCAP, tying it to goals, tying it to priorities.
And the studies we've done before, it's a little more surgical in a way, and it might be something to elevate and take
Yes.
a look at.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's up there.
Just to follow up on that, because so many of our budgetary costs are negotiated, would the zero-based budgeting only apply to that which is not negotiated?
Yes.
Rhonda, explain to me the energy management component and how would that look like? I mean, what would it look like?
We've had some suggestions that we need an energy czar. There's been, good and bad thoughts on that. That would be someone who really looks at how we're managing our energy, from, say, classrooms over the summer that we have portables that the air goes on and there's nobody in there, but the air is running, to looking at by site our doors being left open, our windows being left open, making sure we have a consistent set point in terms of temperature, those kinds of things. Somebody actually monitoring them.
And who would that be? Would it be a consulting firm, somebody from the outside coming in?
Whose job description can we add it to?
That's part of the discussion. There are consulting companies that can do that, and they are usually paid through the savings that are generated, or it could be a person. Same way, their salary would be paid from the savings. It would be somebody also looking at our bills, making sure that we're not having spikes in water usage, spikes in energy, those kinds of things that would, maybe point to something, a pipe broken, or those kinds of things.
Mr. Short.
To add on that question, I know we talked about this before. I know Matt's not in here, but smart building technology implementing, I know there SMUD and other grants out there that to implement that technology to monitor it had a rate of return on investment. I don't know what happened to that idea, but just something to think about.
We're doing an LED light replacement now.
Yeah,
we're using our Prop 39 dollars for that, and we have been going site by site. And in classrooms, what we've done is we're replacing the ballasts, putting LED lights in. We're putting control boxes where you can actually set it for different functions within the classroom. You could have a lighting for students taking a test versus a student teaching at a certain point in the classroom.
Yep,
You can
yep.
set them for motion detection, those kinds of things.
Yeah, the technology now with even thermostat control, water control sensitizers, HVAC.
Yeah.
You can buy it for your home now. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
Mr. Hoover?
So I was just curious about, and I know that we don't have a lot of details on all of these necessarily, but on the special education portion, I mean, we have so many federally mandated costs. We get so little money from the state. What were the actual suggestions there in terms of what we could cut?
They were suggestions in terms of looking at some of our supply purchases, some of the materials, making them more consistent. There was a request to review how our IAs are assigned, looking at a 2-to-1 versus a 1-to-1 ratio, those kinds of things. Just looking for ways to reduce that it's a 10 to 12% contribution each year, looking for ways to reduce that.
Okay, thank you.
And that would have to be through an IEP as well, that the parents would have to agree to the 2-to-1 aid, right? Yeah. Assistant principals, the ones that we have, they're paid through supplemental funds or a grant, so we don't have any assistant principals coming out of the general fund, correct?
We have some. We have some
I'm
paid
thinking
from
elementary.
Yeah, correct. Secondary
sorry.
most are paid through general
Yeah,
fund.
I was thinking of the elementary. I apologize. And the elementary opportunity program, I just want to make sure that there is a need to justify the both positions. I think on one side we might be a little shy of students. Is there a better way to utilize that position? Have we looked at, do we need that position? What are the thoughts?
Ask Mr. Wilson to address that.
Yeah, that's definitely a conversation we have almost daily, because it is kids come and they go when they come back, and it's based on need, but we're absolutely monitoring that on a day-to-day basis.
I figured you were. Thank you. Just pointing it out. Thank you. Any other questions on that slide? Okay.
So here's just a review of our timelines again. And then any further questions?
Before we go to the public, does the board have any further questions? Okay. I don't have any cards. Do we have cards? Just one? Okay. Well, we know we have one speaker. If you'd like to speak, it's easier if you fill out a card. Amanda, Turkey. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I would just like to bring to the board's attention on some of the feedback that I saw. Library services are one of the first things that are always considered in budget cuts that happen like this. And I would like to just address the importance and value of having a library that's well staffed with good programming. A lot of us have heard the startling statistic that third grade reading levels determine how many jail cells are built in a town. And if you look at that more closely, it's not as cut and dry as that. It's more that third grade reading levels determine what your ninth grade reading levels will be. And then your ninth grade reading levels will determine whether you're going to graduate high school or not. And then if you don't graduate high school, you're 64% more likely to be incarcerated. So when we're talking about literacy, the fundamental element of what's happening or should be happening in schools, I think it's really important to think about the role that having literacy-rich environments are for our children who don't have access to that at home, who don't have access to a public library because they cannot get there. I think it's important that we don't forget the social emotional development that happens in libraries for our students who are on the fringe, who don't particularly fit in and see it as a safe space. When we talk about Culture 2.0 and wanting all of our children to feel welcome and have a place where they can learn, discover, and explore, libraries are integral to that idea. So I just want to put that forward. I have a lot of library staff in the audience here tonight because we feel it's integral. It's not a space. It's not a space with books. It's people who are getting children excited about reading because they understand the underlying importance of what it means to their further opportunities beyond the classroom. So I just wanted to stand up and give you my 2 cents and let you know how valuable the library staff are. And we are currently working at a deficit. And looking at Sacramento County, we are one of the only districts that don't have teacher librarians. They're understaffed already in terms of hours according to what the CDE model library standards are. And I have spreadsheets that I'm happy to share with you, but we're already running it like it's a going out of business sale in the library. So I would like us to not look at that with the coming budget cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy?
Thank you. Tracy Suter, and I've been teaching with the district for over 30 years now, 20 at Cordova High and 11 at Vista. And I'm also the treasurer at FCEA. So I do want to talk to you a little bit more about retiree benefits, because I do think we have opportunities there that, while you were asking questions, weren't completely covered on that first slide. So as we look at the data, we've been paying 1% out of our general fund into what we were calling Fund 71. And we were also paying the annual costs of the retiree benefits. So as I look at what was happening with the actuarial, if they're calculating what they're recommending based on 55 or older teachers and expecting all of them to take medical benefits until 65, it's not happening. Our average retirement rate is about 61 point something years old, and only about 41% of those teachers were actually taking medical benefits at that point. So that's considerably less than what you were trying to pay towards as you put that money in there. So now that you have an actual lockbox Fund 71 that you're setting up, that we have a chunk of money sitting there, that it's still available. And I'm not recommending we don't. I've been here a long time. I plan to retire. I plan to use some medical benefits. And I want to have money available. But if you look at what we've been paying out annually, it's a lot closer to $280,000, a little less than $300,000. And I haven't seen numbers from the last couple years. And there was a bump. But if you spread that out over, say, that 4 or 5 years till retirement, that's a whole lot less than the money we've been putting into that account. And we could easily take about $5 million, put it into that new 71 account that you're setting up with the mutual fund that earns interest. You're still probably going to be paying your retiree benefits out of general fund on top of it. It's an emergency. It's an insurance policy. And if you look at what you have in that fund projected for this year, that frees up about $10 million one-time monies that could go someplace else. So if those monies are going to student-centered costs like Chromebooks, then that's money that can be moved out of the budget elsewhere and save us towards that third year. Because I think in the long run, we'd be a lot smarter to make sure we get the correct status with the county and not impact the building of our new schools and the bonds and all the other things that are going out there. So I do encourage you to have that lockbox Fund 71, and I know you've committed to it, but I think we want to be smart about how much money we seed that fund with, and do monitor the data. There's going to be a little bit more because we got a lot of people to retire, but in a few years, you're not going to have anyone old enough to retire. So the money will balance itself out. I also would like us to stop putting that 1% in every year, because that's general fund monies, and I would like to see a raise before I retire at some point. I would appreciate that personally. So that was a little bit more detail. Obviously, the actual numbers are hard to do because they keep moving, but I think that there's a real opportunity there to grab some one-time costs that still benefit students and let us have some flexibility in the budget.
Thank you. I think there seemed to be enough interest from the board in continuing the discussion about what to do with that fund as we move forward. So I assure you it will be talked about. And I think Rhonda was pretty clear that one of the priorities is that we realize that our employee groups are also looking for additional pay. So we've got a lot of things to balance. Any other comments or questions from the public? Come on up.
Hi, Angelica Miklos, FCEA president. One thing that I didn't see, although that last list was really long, was consulting costs and the cost of professional development. So consideration on that, if there are ways to look at that. Was it on there? No.
Yeah, staff development.
staff development, but looking at consulting costs and how, are we getting our bang for the buck? Is there a way to cut there or look at things in a different way to cut in that area, or, just redistribute a little bit? And I do want to thank you, Mr. Reed. That's been our position at this point for sure. We do not want to cut jobs, and we also don't want to split our groups. We don't want to get in a position of looking at cutting one faction of our unit at the cost of another. So I do appreciate your backing on that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
I'm Christina Alley, and I just wanted to touch a little bit on the kindergarten issue with the prep. So the way kindergarten, and I'm in TK, with AM, PM, I start at 8 in the morning, and I'm done at 2:38, which is longer than everyone else. So we work longer hours.
Correct.
We have 4 or 5-year-olds in our room, and we don't get quiet time unless we have a prep. We don't have music prep. So our only quiet time in the room is when we have a PE prep, which the kids need. So I just wanted to put that out there, just a little perspective on eliminating prep from kindergarten TK.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tony Ruiz, Vista Del Lago. Couple of things that I wasn't sure that I saw in here, and if I did miss it, then please tell me. The repeated release days for teachers being pulled out of their classroom by the grade level, like all the 10th grade English teachers in the district being pulled out to do grading here at district office. How much is that costing? Also, I hear the love for the IB program at Cordova High, and I hear vagaries about there's growth. I want numbers. How many students graduated with through the IB program? If we're talking about a school of 1900 and we're talking about 30 students that went through the full thing, is that really worth the money? So I want specifics. I feel like there were some vague statements, but not enough specifics.
Thank you. Any other comments from?
Hi, I'm Megan Ham from Cordova High School. I'm the science division leader. And I saw one of the items on the agenda is delaying or reducing curriculum adoptions. And that's very concerning to me because we've been trying to adopt curriculum for, I don't know, since 2012. So 10 years, almost 10 years now in science. And so I just want to, the textbook I use in my classroom was published in 2002. So I don't think, I'm very concerned to hear that, maybe those could be delayed or reduced or things like that, because there are some areas that are desperate for an adoption. Also, I saw a lot about IB, and I am an IB teacher at Cordova High School. It's a hot topic always. But I think the number up there is interesting given how much has been invested by our district into that program, with all the training and all the extra things that we've done to make a great program at Cordova High School in Mitchell. So I would be very sad to see all of that go to waste by reducing that program or making that program go away. I don't think it's what's best for students. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any reassurances that we can give about the science curriculum? I mean, are we getting there or in the process?
I think that we have made great strides with the science curriculum, and I don't think that we would be able to not move forward with NGSS. I think it would weaken our district. I would not be a proponent of not adopting the science textbooks, but that is up to the board to make that decision. That's not my decision.
Yes.
I wish it was.
Well, we usually trust your advice, so thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Rob Thomas, President for the Classified Union. One thing I wanted to note first is that I really appreciate the level of transparency that the district is showing in inviting all this participation. It certainly is appreciated. Also, I think the board set a really good direction last year with focusing on what's happening with natural attrition and examining that as it comes up, rather than so that we can use the folks we have to our best ability, rather than having hardships that might be unnecessary. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, if there are layoffs, we are a family. That's the culture that we're setting as a district. And so when there are difficult circumstances, you do your best to make sure that people are treated fairly, treated humanely. So I would just hope that we as a district, we keep that in mind. And if there are layoffs, that we show some flexibility in how we can utilize those people that are displaced from their normal jobs. And one other thing is, it seems the teachers have brought this retiree medical issue to the front, and it seems like an area where nobody wants to put ourselves in a situation where we can't take care of our retirees with the obligations we've made to those retirees. But it seems like we have been extremely conservative in the way we've addressed this issue, and so I really think being more realistic about what our current liabilities are and what our future liabilities will be. This may be a real opportunity. We're in a difficult time. This may be a real opportunity for us to get some help. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hi, Heidi Barnett, Elementary Physical Education.
And Brenda Strombaum, Elementary Music.
Looking at that one slide that said eliminate or reduce prep period for elementary school teachers at $1 million, just curious, is that eliminate the entire program, parts of the program? Is that just the kindergarten part of it? Couldn't be, because that would be really high paid teachers, so I'm not sure what we're
It's
looking
not
at
eliminating the whole program. I'm going to ask Mr. Wilson to give an example of what that could be.
So if we were talking just minutes that teachers require for prep throughout K-5 in an elementary setting, the personnel needed to provide just the minutes, and again, this isn't going PE, this isn't going music, it's just bodies to provide the minutes necessary by contract would require about 18.5 FTE. Currently, between both PE and music programs, designed as they are today, we have 28.5 FTE to do that. So the bodies, again, necessary to produce the bare minimum would be about 18.5. So we're 10 over that bare minimum.
Okay, so when you guys look at that, oftentimes we see that you take a day and you divide it up by half-hour increments, and you say, well, you should be able to teach 10 classes in one day as an elementary PE teacher, not taking into consideration my school alone has lunch going on from 11 until 1:30. I have to work around. There's 4 recesses, 4 lunches, the music program, the PE program, early, late, intervention program. So you cannot take a schedule and just say, hey, you can teach 10 classes in there, so we don't need that many PE teachers. It doesn't work. We have worked with our schedules over and over and over again, trying to get it as close as we can. It's just not possible. It's not humanly possible. But when we look at elementary prep, the classroom teacher gets 60 minutes prep a week. A week. That's it. And some get 100 if they're 4th and 5th grade. That's hardly any time at all for them to run and make a couple copies, a phone call or whatever. And then they're going to be expected to do their prep outside of that. In addition, because the law requires physical education by law, they now need to teach all their physical education minutes. So we're adding more burden on that elementary classroom teacher and taking away the expertise of the music teacher and the PE teacher that know how to teach those children. When we're talking about growing our social emotional learning, and you're taking away or talking about taking away some of the services that provide that
to every 4th and 5th grader,
but then taking and hiring other companies to come in and teach us how to teach, it just is not congruent. It's not making sense to us. And I really hope you'll take a much, much deeper look at that and talk to us. Look at our schedules, talk to us about it, because I understand what you're saying of the numbers and the minutes, but it doesn't work out that way in reality. It just doesn't. There's too many programs that we work around and all day long to get those minutes in.
Also, come see what our kids are doing when they get away from their computers. They are with us. They are never using computers. And they are working together, interacting together, and that's one of the only places where they actually are able to do that. So if anything, I think they need more music.
Absolutely.
Starting in kindergarten.
And PE,
so like
both
other
of them.
districts and PE, so that they can get on board with the social emotional learning that the kids all in San Juan district are getting. They have music and PE starting a lot younger than we do. So
we talk about all those things that the children need, and we keep going to other programs to provide that when we're already here. PE and music are two of the subject areas that can provide that curriculum and that development for the children. We're already here.
And music and athletics are also one of the things the kids told everybody that they wanted to keep. And so to take it away at the elementary level, it makes no sense to me. It's going to fall apart at middle and high school when we lose it in elementary.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Gina Bamberger. I teach at Theodore Judah Elementary. I'm part of the Academy program. One of the slides had the academies at Mather and Theodore Judah on there, and I assume that's supposed to be in the we bring in more revenue, but it does not seem to appear that way, because it seems like all the other things are things that you're considering cutting. So I'm not sure where the academies are generating more cost. We don't have any extra prep time. We have no administrator that deals with us specifically. We develop our own curriculum. We buy our own materials. So I'm just not sure. And then our parents have made it clear to us, especially last year with the situation that happened, that if there were more programs for a variety of needs, whether they're, whatever, magnet programs or any, like IB being a big draw for Cordova, having something similar like that for elementary, you would draw more people into our school district. I have a lot of my students live in El Dorado Hills. I've had students come from Galt and Gilroy and all kinds of crazy places to get here to bring their kids to school. So I'm just curious why we're on the...
Superintendent, before we end up with a room full of Theodore Judah families again, can we talk about that? Okay.
Definitely. Mr. Wilson.
Sure, absolutely. So for full disclosure, it ended up on the other ideas to explore. So one of the things that the reasons it came up is that in the way it's being done in a school model, by not being able to, so let's say we have 4 third grade classes, 2 of those are academy, 2 of those are core in one given school. There are times when there's enough students that if it wasn't in a school model, it could be done with 3 teachers rather than 4, but because we can't combine an academy class with a core class, which we heard very clearly, that ends up costing us an extra teacher in some of those programs. But like you said, we need to explore it more, because it's possible the academy programs, and I know for a fact, and especially Theodore Judah, is bringing in families from the outside, so that it wasn't on the list of do now. It was, let's look at the cost benefit here. Is this doing what we wanted it to do, or is it costing us extra staff members by the inability to group children in their class size reduction numbers or their maximum capacity numbers?
And we've been compensating for that. Like all of the academy classes are at 26 and 34, and the core classes are less. And we're all fine with that. There's no like, oh, we should be the same. We're totally aware that that's something that needs to, we need to be aware of. I just don't want this to look like the academy should not be a deficit. If our academy wasn't at Theodore Judah would not be Theodore Judah. So all of the kids that live in that neighborhood who truly benefit from the STARS program, who benefit from the core classes and the academy, all working together. I mean, we're all out on the playground together. We do a lot of things together. That would not exist. So, Theodore Judah was slated to close, and the academy what kept Theodore Judah going. So this misconception that it's a cost and a detriment and whatever else it appears to be for some of you, I'd love for you to come and talk to us because I think we could help you understand. And also I have parents that would be willing to work with you to encourage other kinds of magnet programs to come and to encourage other people to come if population is an issue in our district. So thank you. And I hope you made reference a couple times to our parents. And I hope that isn't a negative thing for you.
No, I just don't want to create a sense of panic. So, I mean, this is, just very
well, it's important to know that looking at our both of our academies as a detriment can create some panic. So that might be something for you to consider and send that information to parents and let them know, because when they read that, they're going to go, wait a minute, how is that possible? And I would love to know in detail what it looked like for you sitting down and figuring out how we have small classes because it doesn't work out. I think sometimes things are said and it really needs to be put on paper and looked at. And then we can all agree this isn't working or it is working. That's just my opinion. So thank you.
And it's been very evident that program has turned Theater Judah around and created the school that it is now. So I don't think anybody doubts the value of the program.
It's the collective work of Corin Academy. We just all work together. So thank you.
Welcome.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Jeanette Sansenbach, who are two hats, Vice President of FCA, and then also a fourth grade teacher at San Jose Gallardo. So other ideas to explore. So Gina went ahead and talked about the fact that it was, that she thought that her school in Mather Heights was also able to go ahead and generate funds. What I don't see on the other ideas to explore, these are all cuts. Where are our ideas about generating money? About being able to go ahead and look at different partners and being able to go ahead and raise revenue, because it doesn't seem to be, there seems to be a lack of money, and instead of just cutting, what can we go ahead and do to generate some funds to go ahead and come into and thinking outside of the box to go ahead and generate some funds for our schools, whether that's going to business partners, whether that's going to the cities. However we go ahead and do that, I think our cities and our parents, we need to go ahead and look at some things to go ahead and increase revenue instead of just going ahead and cutting. Thank you.
Superintendent, do you mind if we talk a little bit about what Daniel's department has done to reach out?
Yeah.
And I also want to invite anyone who wants to get involved with the Folsom Cordova Education Foundation and try to raise money. You are welcome to help. So,
okay, we'll talk a little bit about what we've done through the communications department with attendance campaign too, because for every % increase in attendance, these are actual students and their seats every day. We raise it by 1%. That's $1.6 million additional revenue that goes back to our students. So that's one of the ways. And when we look at our attendance rates, some of our schools are very high. Some of them are not so high. So then we ask the question, why is it students aren't coming to school on the first day? Or why is it that they're absent often? So that's something we're digging deeper in with a new program that we have called A2A, Attention to Attendance. And out of our attendance and due process office, we've been working with our sites and working on that attendance campaign. But I'm going to let Mr. Thigpen elaborate a little bit more.
Sure. We have a subcommittee working group of staff within the district that's taking a look at, in addition to that, what are some of the strategies that we can do to improve attendance throughout our district. So before the back to school period, we did invest some time and resources to make sure, seeing that we saw a drop off during the first couple of weeks of school, we wanted to raise awareness when the first day of school is. We saw that targeted in some of our Title I neighborhoods, and we wanted to look for that opportunity to see if we could recapture some of those students, again, to try to minimize and mitigate a dip in revenue during that critical period. And so we're evaluating those efforts right now in conjunction with A2A and also in collaboration with instruction on staff development for identifying kids who maybe are on the cusp and who maybe aren't truant yet, but maybe we need to employ some SEL strategies to keep those kids connected at school and work with their families. So it's really a multi-pronged effort as it relates to attendance, because that's going to be one of our biggest revenue drivers. As it relates to the speaker's comment about working with our business partners and our municipalities, we have really rich, thriving partnerships right now that we're looking to continue to grow, and we have grown in recent years. Intel, SMUD, and Safe Credit Union are among those that are not only providing some dollars and resources, but also some learning opportunities for our kids, and provide those through either CTE pathways or through other avenues. Part of what's problematic with that is those are great for supplementals. I think between Intel and Safe Credit Union, we've been able to raise around $18,000 just in the last fiscal year, but that's fantastic, but it doesn't help with ongoing costs, and certainly doesn't help with some of the structural issues that we have. So we want to look to continue to grow those relationships. As the point department for Measure H in the city of Rancho Cordova, I think we've seen several millions of dollars over the last several years come into our schools for those supplemental programs and enrichment opportunities for our kids. But just like grants or other things that end up expiring, we have to be very careful about how we commit those dollars. So yes, those absolutely have a role, continuing to grow those relationships. Don't always help with the structural issues, but it's something we'll continue to explore from a revenue standpoint.
Thank you. So I wanted to allow time for board comments before we leave. So Tracy, and then we'll wrap it up.
Corinne's been watching the live stream.
Oh, she texted. Okay.
Can I answer a couple of her observations?
Okay, of course. Shall we all wave to Deb? Hi, Deb.
I'll try to get the ones that haven't already been mentioned. Deb definitely echoes the consulting and professional development costs. She appreciates LCAP as a zero balance budget and thinks we should look at everything that way. Transportation, since Metro's giving free passes, maybe we can look at expanding partnerships within that, try to maintain some of our transportation costs to actually what we receive. Probably the one that I have not heard this evening, I know on your slides you had iReady and iLit and a few of those others, and look at what teachers can provide. You hire us as professionals, you're already paying for us, we're free from that perspective, and can probably provide programs that serve the needs of students without the additional costs. And I think that was, and she would like to reiterate, taking Fund 71 to get us out of hot water.
Really, Deb?
Yes, she does. And I think
You didn't know that.
I think that's the primary summary.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to board comments before we wrap up. Any board members have comments? Mr. Short?
I think I want to thank everybody being here, and I want to also recognize the fact that I think staff and the public and the transparency has been really good, and this dialogue is really good because I've been through the tough times, and the tough people do last, but we don't want to go through what we did before. I think this is a good dialogue, and it helps us focus on what the community, and as I said before, we got to keep it away from the classroom and the kids and impact the kids as least as possible. I know sometimes when we get into these big numbers, we just don't know yet. There's still the fog right now, but as we go through this, we're going to figure out and start fine-tuning it, and hopefully everybody will be here with us and share the pain, because it is not easy to make these decisions. I do hear some of the people that I think being realistic and having more information is always better. Zero-based budgeting, I know we've had that on the table before, but that's definitely getting down to the realistic point of looking at things. I know we have a lot to talk about in the near future, and I have a lot of faith in the staff and the parents here and our staff to come up with the good ideas that will keep it farthest away from the classroom. And I want to thank everybody for doing that and continue to have this dialogue. So thank you for that.
Mr. Reed.
Yeah, a couple observations. In regards to library services, and I may be off by 1 year, but I remember back, I think it was 2009, 10, and 11, I was on the Sandra J. Gallardo PTA board at the time, and that's when we had previously cut basically all funding for libraries. And the PTA, at least in case of Sandra J. Gallardo, spent tens of thousands of dollars to keep the library open. And I know that some other elementary schools did the same. And what concerns me is that, well, first of all, I appreciate the generosity of the PTAs in doing that, but it's not very equitable, because there are many schools that either don't have a PTA or PTO, or don't have the wherewithal to generate the funds to keep the library open. And I don't want to see that type of disparity happen again. So I would be concerned if we look at library services as a way to generate some savings. Also, and I'm sure there's more than just 2 items that were on this slide deck, but the only 2 that just jumped out at me that would be cuts that would take, or I'll call it cost efficiencies, that would take place in this building is the lead teachers and the print shop. I'd like to see what other potential opportunities for cost efficiencies we could find in this building.
I just wanted to basically thank everybody for coming out and showing your interest and hearing most of your comments. You know, we're here to hear you, and you know, I'm a person that you can reach out to me via email or call me or whatever, so we can have a good conversation about the mixed support or some of the things that we're looking at. Also, utilize your cabinet and your leadership, even with the superintendent, to continue to ask questions. So I just look forward to diving deeper into this. There are a few things that are concerning to me, like the consultants and you know, the prep periods at Cordova and Vista as well. But you know, I'm willing to take time out and listen to you guys. So thank you again for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Hoover?
Sound a little repetitive, but really excited to see everyone in this room participating in the discussion. Thank you for all the work you put in before today so that we could all come here and have this discussion. I know that you have been working very hard, coming up with a lot of ideas, and we really appreciate that. And we're all in this together. So I really am interested in this. I'm surprised it actually didn't come up until Deb texted in about this iReady issue. I know the contract is expiring this year, from what I am told, and I think it is the time to take a look at that, and if not get rid of it entirely, replace it with something more affordable. I'm not sure, but I definitely think that's something we need to explore, because yeah, I've got mixed feelings about the actual product itself for when my kids use it. So and I'll just echo my colleague to my right here, Mr. Reed, on administrative costs in the Education Services Center. I noticed on the charts themselves, it was about $150,000 of projected cuts, 149, in reductions at the administrator director level, or even I'm just curious, you know, it's a big building. There's a lot of people in here. I know we don't want to cut costs. We don't want to cut anywhere, but we have to. So I'd just be interested in a better breakdown of what that number is, and if we can make it any bigger in any way, just so we can even out some of these reductions across all different areas of the district, and try to keep it away from the classroom as much as possible. The reality is, I mean, these are really difficult decisions, and I'm not excited about that next year that wasn't on the slides tonight, and how big that number is going to be getting. So, you know, sadly, I think we're in for a tough few years, but just thanks again for everyone being here, and I hope that you know, we can continue to have these productive discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share some of my thoughts. I do want to compliment the superintendent a little bit. She has been tried to be very thoughtful and conscientious when making changes at the cabinet level as we've moved the last 2 years, and I anticipate that she will continue that practice. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I haven't heard anything about early retirement. We know that would help us. I'm wondering if we should do that sooner rather than later this year, if we're talking about that. It helps us to know as soon as possible. When we talk about the IB program and other things, I believe that choices are best for students. So if you're going to look at an IB program, you also have to look at schools that might have different schedules that might cost more money too. So I think we need to be aware that, and all of the choices are good for our students, and we want to continue to provide the best options for them. I do not want to see pink slips, layoffs, and I think staff has been very conscientious about trying to not fill positions that we could possibly do without. And I'm hoping that that trend will allow us to not have to go through any layoffs. That's my objective. But it's going to take us all working together. Staff has been very clear that they realize that employee raises are important to you. I think we've been clear that the board is willing to look at Fund 71. I think that we might have maybe we can do some skimming off of professional development, maybe travel. I don't know, travel still seems a little high to me, but I don't know. So I think, we're going to dig deep and try to find the solution with hopefully not impacting our employees, and our employees are what provide the best services for our students. So with that, and the superintendent, do you have anything you want to add to this, what they can expect as we move forward? Or
well, once again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here today, but also being at the meetings that we've been holding to elicit your feedback. And it doesn't end here. We still are listening, and if you have other ideas that haven't shown up here tonight, please don't hesitate to let me know that as well. Our next steps in this process, as we saw on the timeline, is to try to vet some of these a little bit further. If we went just with the broad support list, and most of those are one-time, that won't get us exactly where we need to go, and the county probably won't certify us at that point. So we still need to look at probably a mix of the broad and the mixed support going into 2021. And we'll continue that dialogue, if that's okay with the board, at the next meeting with a budget update, and then with recommendations coming forward on November 21st.
Thank you. With that, good night. I hope you're all going to stick around till 6 o'clock and join us for, no?